Welcome to our school testing coordinator spring training. I'm Chris West. If you don't know me, I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Analysis and Program Research, or SAPR. And I have been having the pleasure for the last 8 months, I think, or 40 million, of being the Interim Director of the assessment team as well. So I'm very glad you guys are here today. We have a lot of information to transfer to you, which we sat and transferred from the Public Education Department. The nice thing about the wonderful people on the assessment team is that they're going to give you the things that you need to know and that might be different than before, so that you're not going to get the 7 hours that we did of everything that you don't need to know. But one thing I wanted to make sure that you guys all know, and I know that you've been doing it, is that the assessment team is here to make the school testing coordinator successful. So if you get a question from your principal, you get a question from a teacher, you get a question from a passionate parent, maybe even a passionate child that the parents like. If you ever feel uncomfortable or a little unsure about your answer, please reach out to the assessment team. You can always use that assessment at aps.edu email. You can always email any of them, but please reach out. It's one of those things where we don't want you guys to have to say something that you're not confident or not sure about, because that's not your role. Right? Your role is to be supported by the assessment team and to make sure people in your school can test hopefully in a smooth way. But I know that you guys can't do that by yourselves, so I want you to make sure that you're relying on the assessment team. We do have 8 people on the assessment team if you didn't know that. So we have Shelly Robinson, we have Melissa Ariana, we have Claudine Sanchez, Christoph Runder. We also have, who's not here right now, but we have Rhonda Davis, we have Misty Miller, and we have Mario Barriga, and Lori Boylan. So anyway, the point of me saying those names to you is that those people, their jobs are to make sure that you're supported. So it's not on you. It's not on you to make sure your principal is supported. It's your job. You have a team to support you. Because I don't want you guys to get in a situation where you're like, I don't know. I got to also, deal with kids and stuff. Just call us. If it ever gets really bad or you really need help, we'll come to your school. Right? Because I don't want you guys to be stressed, because if you're stressed, then the teacher will be stressed, and then the kids will be stressed, and then everybody goes crazy about this whole world of assessment that we live in. So it's okay to be needy if you need to be needy. I'm very needy. I know about that about myself. I don't think that's flattering to say a lot, but it's true. But it's okay. It's okay. It's also okay to be excited and have ideas. If you have a new idea, you think that something's not working, tell the assessment team. Tell us. If you've been doing something, you're like, I don't know why you guys do this. I do it this way, please tell us, because then we can do it for everybody else. There's a lot of brains here. It's better than having 8 brains. So please just be communicative. That's a big word for me. So anyway, we're going to show you lots of information. We're going to talk about the New Mexico Measures of Student Success and Achievement, NMMSSA, which is just park again with a different theme. It's going to be the same question, the same item bank and everything, but we'll talk to you about that. So anyway, so the good thing about that is all you're doing is just going to a different testing platform, but it's the same test again for the 3rd year in a row that it's not the same test. Anyway, so we'll show you guys that. And unlike the high schools, you guys don't have to worry about PSAT and SAT, because that's a big change. So you guys are going to pretty much live in the same paradigm that you lived in last spring. It's just, you'll have a new hard acronym to say even though it's the same test. So anyway, we do also have our colleagues from technology, because obviously in the world of assessment now, nothing works if it doesn't work on the computer. And if you're like me, you can't do your job or do anything in school without the support of technology. So we do have John and Juan as well. So they're going to talk in a second here. But I just want to make sure you guys know, so we talk to them a lot, and we're trying to talk to them more. And also during the testing window, we'll have that help desk again where we are together, so that you're not getting like, oh, I don't know how to handle that. You got to talk to the technology person that puts the app on your computer. No, we'll sit together and make sure that you're just getting help. Because obviously getting all the kids to do something at one time is already stressful. So we'll make sure we support you guys in that. So I'm going to stop talking and pass over to you gentlemen. So thank you guys for being here today.
Good morning. As mentioned, we're with technology, and we're here to help support you. What we need from you is to put in a ticket to let us know what's going on at your school, what's going on with your machines. We like this at least a month in advance, giving us specifics in the ticket on what's going on with your lab. So, example, iStation, all these software programs, the companies will put out updates. We want to make sure that your school is up to date, and that's why we'll go out once a ticket is generated. We would like for you to do your preferred method of submitting a ticket. There's at least 3 different ways. You can email, you can call 830-8080. You can also use the self-service portal, Sharewell portal. Please be as specific as possible when entering the tickets. If it's a lab, if it's a classroom, Mac, PC, Chromebook. There are certain Chromebooks that we can help with. There are others that we need to look into, depending on how your school got those Chromebooks. Most of them we can assist with. If you have any devices hidden underneath cabinets, underneath a desk or something, please bring those out. We'd like to update those as well. Last, if you have a testing calendar of which tests you'll be doing each week at your school, please share that with our testing leads. Their emails are up on the screen. We can also get you those emails if you need them. So we'll know when you're going to be doing the test, when we need to be there, and plan accordingly. What questions do you all have? Over here.
Will you be doing any training for the school tech people?
So we can do one-on-one training with you if you have any needs. Is that right?
Right, thanks.
So again, just reach out to us, reach out to the team lead, or put in a ticket.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks. Melissa.
Hi guys, this is kind of weird because we have people on both sides. I'm Melissa. Here's our contact information. Chris mentioned you can always contact any of us. And then throughout today, if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask them at any time as we go through the information. Just a quick overview of the spring assessment windows. So iStation, we just had middle of year in December. May will be the end of year window. And then you should be ongoing with the progress monitoring for levels 1 and 2. Access, we're a few weeks into that window. NAEP, it was only a few select schools for NAEP this year. So that's, for the majority of you, you don't need to worry about that at all. If you were a NAEP school, you were already contacted. And then DLM, that's going to be in March. That's the alternate assessment for reading and math, which replaces NMAPA. The science and the New Mexico MSSA, those are upcoming. So March 2nd is the science, and then the reading and math, which replaces PARC, will be April 6th through May 8th, along with the Spanish reading. And then just for your FYI, going in the high school level, to replace PARC, the PDD chose the PSAT for grade 10 and the SAT for grade 11. And then next year, grade 9 will also do the PSAT 8-9. That's just kind of an FYI. And then for interim assessments, iReady begins April 6th through the end of the year. Just a reminder, all of these dates are always on our website. We have our calendars. Okay, so just a few of the major tests upcoming this spring. We have the ASR, so the science, the MSSA, and the Spanish reading SPA. These 3 are all supported by Cognia, which was formerly known as Measured Progress. So just the way Pearson supported PARC, Cognia is supporting these 3 assessments. And Cognia is going to give you a more detailed overview of each of these. What we've provided for you today is some blueprints. So that was one of your handouts. So the first one is the ASR. So that's the Assessment for Science Readiness. And that's measuring next gen science standards. So that transition to New Mexico STEM Ready standards, that is what that's measuring. So those blueprints give you a little bit more detail about the test items, the content to be covered, and Claudine will also tell you a little bit about the practice test if you don't already know about that. You do have a set of formative task items that align with next gen science standards that are available to your schools. And we put a link in our assessment website. So under ASR, you guys will now find 2 links that say, it's called STEM Gauge. So they're formative tasks. There's also formative performance tasks. So quick formative tasks and then some extended performance tasks that your teachers can practice with. So I just wanted to mention that because that's an additional resource. You also have the blueprints for the MSSA, so you can get a better idea of some of the content. The blueprint is the same as the transition test was last year. Okay. So again, more details now. So Claudine will tell you a little bit more about the ASR.
So some of you did participate last year, were selected because it was a field test. It's a field test again this year, but for all schools. So for 5 and 8, there's 2 units. And it's a total of 90 minutes, so 45 minutes per unit. And you can see on the blueprint, it tells you the number of like multiple choice, the number of items for each of the units for 5 and 8. Available on computer and paper. That is different from the field test last year. It was only available for computer. So we've already ordered. So if you missed that initial order window, there is an additional order window. You need to let me know if any student needs a paper test due to IEP. It is available in Spanish as well, large print and braille. So we're gonna be loading students. What's different this year is that we're going to be loading students ourselves. The PD will load, and then we'll go in and load our own file, and then it'll override. So it'll be a little bit more cleaner, and we'll be loading that the week of February 10th.
You said it's a computer-based test. Will there be a kiosk app in the Chromebook?
Yeah, we'll get to the eye test during
Okay,
this.
thanks.
So the portal's open now, and right now there's just some training students. The portal does close on Friday, so it's just for training purposes, but you can still access the practice test from the Cognia help page. And you can do that at any time. There's not a login. You can just go to the ASR tab and then click on practice test. And if you go right there, you'll find the URL. And once you go to the URL, where it says to log on the drop down, you just pick the grade level. So you can do 5th English, you can do 5th Spanish, and there's not a password or username. You just click on it. So the students can actually be doing that now up until the window says, even once the window starts. Starting February, go.
Excuse me, is this for all 5th grade throughout the city?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, 5, 8, and 11 will be doing the ASRs. So, like I said, the portal closes the week of the 18th. I will load students. On February 18th, the portal reopens, and that's when you'll go in and assign accommodations, create your classes, and schedule your test sessions. Scheduling your test sessions, that window will open on February 24th.
So this one is different, so where access, we don't create the sessions, but this one we will.
Yeah, and it's the same as last year. I don't know if you participated. Just on science in general. If you helped with the science, it's the same portal, and you have to create classes. And then from there, just schedule the test sessions in order to print your tickets. We will be having, towards the end of the presentation, we'll put up our training dates for in person. I'll show you step by step how to do stuff. and then we'll have drop-in sessions. And that's for both the ASR and the MSSA. So for the MSSA for math, there's 3 units per grade. These are the suggested times. Again, if you look at the blueprint, it's more detailed. And that's available on paper and computer. The math is available in Spanish, so they can take that online. For the ELA, there's 2 units. There will also be some field test items embedded within the test. This is available computer and paper. Next month's checklist for February will request numbers if you need any paper tests due for students needing it due to IEP. So most students should take it online, with the exception of those students that need to have a paper test. The ELA is only available online in English. In just a few minutes, I'll just speak about the SBA Spanish reading, and that test is paper. So when I load the students the week of February 10th, I'll be loading students 3 through 8. So once February 18th comes and you have access to the portal, you'll be able to actually assign accommodations and create your classes for both tests. So you have a lot longer time to assign accommodations for your the ELA and math. Now if you assign accommodations for 5th grade or 8th grade for science, those accommodations will still be in there. So it's kind of less work you have to do. And with that being said, you will not get a PNP like you're used to getting, because this is a different vendor, a different platform. I might be able to give you a roster, something so you can have, better like in Excel. I know some work better that way, so you can see who's in your class and keep track of, at your school. So again, that to do assign accommodations, etc. will be February 18th. You won't be able to schedule your test sessions though until March 30th. And that means printing tickets, etc. And I know you guys you start your spring break that day. So you won't be able to schedule your test sessions or print your tickets till you get back, unless some of you do work over spring break. It's a long window, so you can, when you come back on the 6th, even though that's when the window opens, you can schedule your test session and print your tickets. We don't think it's wise to even start testing that Monday, coming back from a spring break, just because kids are absent. They don't come back right away. Yes.
Do you have to do a regular? You don't have to fill out the personal needs?
We won't have a PNP this time.
I have a clarifying question on scheduling the testing sessions on the M&M MSSA. I know in science we had to basically pick our kids and put them in specific classes. On the MSSA, is it going to be like that, or are they going to be uploaded based on their section?
It's the same platform, and I'm going to talk about that. So the platform we're going to be using is iTester. So you're familiar with that because that's the same platform we use for the SBA science. We'll be using the same platform for both ASR and MSSA. This is the URL for the portal. Before, everyone was kind of used to seeing the Z symbol, and you saw that on where the students test, you saw that where you had to go. Now they're using the balloon. And they renamed it the New Mexico Summative Assessments. And this is the URL. And this is where you're going to go to, this is where students are loaded, accommodations are entered, you create your classes, schedule your test sessions, and print your tickets. The assessment staff will be adding any students you get new. If you have students transferring from one school to another, you need to contact us and we'll take care of that for you. What is new on iTest? The big thing is, in the past, if one of your students' tests was paused more for 20 minutes, you had to contact us to get the proctor password. Now, if you have STC access, the proctor password is available to you. So you will no longer have to call us, but that is still secure, so you should not be giving it just sending it out to all your staff, your staff needs to contact you now to enter that proctor password. And again, some of you that aren't familiar with the portal, we'll be having trainings, step by step, how to do stuff. We'll have drop-in sessions. So if you're not familiar, because I think some of you are kind of new in here, just, we'll just do an overview today, and then we'll do more hands-on towards the end of February. The other thing that's new is there's a limit of 90 students in a class. It doesn't really affect the elementary, but some middle schools test alpha order. So you can still do that. You just put 90 kids in one, and then you have to create another class, put the next 90 kids. That's fine, but that's the difference. Before, you could put a bunch of students in there, and that's how, depending on how you're testing. So that's different. Some of the tools have been added: Zoom Finder, answer masking, the calculator, non-calculator, because of the MSSA. With science, it wasn't there, and it's there now. And then word prediction. So this page, it tells you the first one, you can access the practice test for the ASR. The practice test for the MSSA should be available around February 25th. Again, this is the page where you'll go for the Cognia help page. You can see manuals.
Before we go on about the password, the proctor password, will it be emailed to us?
No, you'll see it there on the portal.
Okay.
So you'll see it when you log in.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember seeing a site readiness?
Yes.
It'll be right above it.
Okay.
And it says proctor password.
Okay.
So whoever is listed as an STC at your school, you'll see it. So if you have test administrators in there, they don't see it, but you'll see it.
For the portal, how do we get our username and password?
So I'll be creating accounts. I'll probably do it before Friday. Again, you can't access it, but you'll have it ready in time for when you'll be able to access it on the 18th. And you'll get an email, and it's coming, this is Cognia, but for some reason on the email after I create an account for you, it doesn't list the URL where you could go. It's kind of odd. So just, a couple of slides before lists where the URL is. And then also on the testing portals later on, I think Shelly does that. She'll show you how to get to it from the STC resources on my APS. Yes.
So I got some emails from Cognia, but they weren't my access, they were other people's saying that they had access.
Like, what do you mean?
So I got an email saying your username is a lot. Like, that's not me. That's somebody else in APS. I got 3 of them. I'm
Well,
like,
that's odd.
yeah. I got 3 in a row
I'd have to see
on the
after.
20th. And I was like,
Okay. I
and so the
haven't
system
created
just
any.
screwed up.
Yeah, I think so, because I haven't created any accounts.
And they were from Cognia support. I was like,
Oh, some email was sent by, and they said to disregard those emails. I don't know what was going on.
okay.
Yeah.
It's like,
But if you deactivate a user, that user will get an email stating that you deactivated their account. And that is the other new one.
so these were random people. I'm like,
No,
none of
just
these
ignore
people.
it. So scheduling, we're gonna ask that you send us your schedules for the ASR and the MSSA. And again, and then on the February checklist, we'll have a place, a link for you to upload on our Google site. And we just need to know, a calendar. You're gonna be testing on this day, what grade level, what session, what unit, what subject. Like you had to do in the past for CARP. And then that deadline's gonna be February 28th. So the SBA Spanish reading, there's 3 sessions. It's paper. We do not know which students got approved yet for the EL waiver. I'm hoping we have that information by the end of the week. We're still waiting on it because we are going to be needing to request numbers starting for February to get the material in. So as soon as we hear from PD, I'll notify you to see which students did get approved for the waiver.
So what do we do if we have gotten new students at our school that would have to take it in Spanish? Or do they even have to take it since they're brand new?
If they're here less than a year in a U.S. school, they are exempt from the ELA reading, but they have to take the math. If they're 5th or 8th graders, they have to take the math and the science.
So being
But they can test in Spanish for both.
Okay,
And if they've been here 3 years or less, they can test in Spanish if that's their language. They don't need a waiver. It's students that were in their 4th or 5th year that require a waiver in order to continue testing in Spanish. But that deadline has passed. And that's just kind of like an overview of what I just said. So the other big thing is the MSSA is untimed. So you won't be putting anybody in for extended time because it's an untimed test. With that being said though, that means that a unit, a session, has to be completed within the day. You can't start a session, do half of it, and then continue tomorrow. It has to be done within the same day. You can do a session one day, the next session the next day, but you cannot stop a session in between and then continue the next day. Does that make sense to everyone? Now, if a student is sick, there are exceptions. Please call us, and then we'll let you know. We'll treat it as a testing irregularity, just to account for the test being open longer than it should have. And then we'll just make sure that you proctor the student a little more thoroughly to make sure they don't go change anything they've already answered. So the test should start wherever they left off, and they have to continue there to finish to the end. But notify me first, and then we'll so we can send you the irregularity template.
The lunch.
They have to finish before lunch. If they're still testing, you can bring lunch to them.
Yeah,
That's fine, but you cannot.
They cannot go to
They
lunch.
cannot go to lunch and then come back
Right, you'd
and
have to
continue.
feed them in that room.
You would have to
and
feed them in that
self-contained.
room.
Okay. That's what I
Now, if you have students that would be considered the extended time students, you probably still want to test them together. So then they'll be testing, and you don't want them, other students that are already finished, because they have to sit there until the rest are done. So, does anybody have any additional questions? Like I said, we'll go through the portal step by step. We'll have trainings, we'll have drop-ins.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Misty, and I'm going to give all of our elementary STCs and guests a reminder about iStation. iStation is a state-required test for all students in kinder through 2nd grade, and if you are a K-5 plus school, it is a requirement to test reading for all students K through 5, whether or not they did participate in summer program. The middle of the year window was in December. There are some schools that missed that, and if you did, well, you've got a week or a few days, couple of days left in January to catch up, and everything will be fine. That was changed at the beginning of the year at the request of Albuquerque Public Schools to the PED. We were the only district that did make that change. So just keep that in mind, that it may also happen next year as well. Normally, the middle of the year benchmark is in January. Ending of year is in May, so get ready for that. You're coming up on that. And it is the STC's responsibility to monitor the completion report to ensure 95% completion rate. I also monitor this, and if I do see that a school is maybe in trouble, not going to hit that 95%, I do let my interim director know, and then he'll give me direction either to contact you, or if it's something very serious and there is a pattern, it will get bumped up to an associate superintendent. So just be aware that that is being monitored. Also, there's a feature in iStation which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. It's called on-demand assessment. And teachers have access to this. It is not a lockdown feature. Teachers do have access to this, and there are instances when you can create an on-demand assessment. Lots of schools are using those on-demand assessments for their student assistance team process to have some data points. But the thing is, you cannot create an on-demand assessment during a benchmarking window. You can't do it. It's considered an irregularity. Basically, it's considered cheating. And so, if that is happening at your school, please remind your teachers that they cannot do that during a benchmarking window. If there is a necessity for that, for some reason something's happened, other than, oh, he didn't do as well as we know that he can do, give us a call, and either I or Melissa Ariano can create that on-demand assessment for the student through our end, and that way you're not doing it, we're doing it, and we have the documentation. We do have some trainings that are available. If you, there is one coming up February 5th that is a state-sponsored training where a regional trainer is here. It is the last in a series of 3, and it's on February 5th. If you're interested, or if you have participated in those other 2, you can go to istation.com/New Mexico, the whole word New Mexico, and register for that training. And if you have some other training needs at your school, please contact either me or Melissa, and we can make some sort of arrangement for you. Also, please remember that the reading assessment for iStation is available in both English and Spanish, and there is a new feature with iStation, and that's math. And you do have access to the iStation assessment for math, and there are several schools that are using it. So that is our friendly reminder about the expectations for oh, yes.
I have a question about progress monitoring.
Yes.
Are you guys monitoring to see if we're completing the progress monitoring if we're not in a benchmark?
Okay, so the rule about progress monitoring is any student scoring a 1 or a 2 or below is progress monitored. And there's millions of students, well, not millions, but we trust that you are doing that appropriately. Okay? And if for some reason we hear that you're not, then we may have a conversation. Okay? All right. So that's it for our iStation reminders. Remember, it's me and Melissa Ariano if you need some assistance. And oh yes.
Your name?
Oh, my name is Misty. Yes, Misty Miller. Yes. And I'm going to turn it over to Christoph for your access reminders.
I'm just wondering, I'm answering access text. I hope you're not texting me from in here. Anyway, hi. Oh, it's already there. Any access questions? No? Yes.
Is it best to wait until the very end of that if we're done and make sure those
Yes. Did you get the question? No. The question was, is it best to wait to return your materials till the end? I said yes. I mean, sometime between the 24th, I would say, that leaves 2 weeks of the window. You probably won't get new kids or kids from another school at that point that haven't been tested. If you have a high mobility, let's say, like, not picking on schools, but the La Mesas and Hawthorns and, Mountain View, for example, sometimes there's a little more of a mobility. Maybe you want to wait till closer to the 6th, okay? But if you're sitting at A Montoya, where you have, your 8 ELs, and you have those 8 ELs all year, or on Yate or whatever, you get 12, then you're probably fine returning it closer to the 24th. Make sense? Window closes on the 6th, so by the 6th, we do have to have everything back, okay? Because we gotta ship it then out. I told you in the trainings in November that LCE is behind in testing the kiddos on the placement test, remember that? So since then, they have been busy and they have tested over 350 students, and most of those students are actually EL. So they gotta be somewhere, right? So, and again, not picking on Helen, but Helen, I think, had one kinder kiddo, and she said, oh yeah, I'll do the kinder test. And now she has 8, and now she's like, whoa, that's a lot of work. So watch your lists, okay? Run your PGM 1406. If you are in the same predicament as Helen, I can probably help you a little bit, because we do have 2 testers that we hired. They're out there testing kinders, but they're scheduled till, I think, February 21st. So if you need their help, it would have to be after February 21st. And this is just for kinder, right? Yes, let's go here first.
Thank you. So if I got a couple kids that just took the WAPT since the beginning of the semester and they got placed, should they go ahead and take the access test?
Did you hear that? If LCE just came out and tested those kiddos, and they're now EL, should you test them on the access? If I was the decision maker, I would say no, but I'm not. PED is the decision maker, and they want you to test it.
Okay, thank you.
And the next question is going to be, where is the cutoff, right? And it's going to be somewhere around the 120 day. And the 120 day is on February 12th. And there's a reason for it, because PED, I mean any school district submits the 120 snapshot, right? And on that 120 snapshot, there's a certain number of ELs on there, right? So that is what PED is going to look at. Here is that number of ELs, and let's say it's 15,000 for APS. And how many did they test? So they don't care if the kid turned EL on February 8th, you know, or on December 3rd. It doesn't matter. So there's a number of ELs, and we have to try to test as many as possible to get to our 95, whatever percent, right, per school. So after that 12th, or whoever is not loaded in the system by the 12th yet, we don't have to test anymore. Because it's, you know, A, it's not fair to the kid. So here we have these kinders that we just gave the placement test to, and now we turn around and have to test them again, you know? I don't know, to me it's not fair. But there are 500 kids in this district that just, I mean, 350 were already tested and 150 are still on the list. So we gotta watch out for those, you know, and check those lists, please. Yes?
So we have a lot of students at our school, right, over 100, and so it's really time consuming for the speaking.
Yeah.
Is there any way that we can get help?
No, I mean, not, I mean, I wouldn't know where from, you know? I mean,
Wondering because.
yeah, no, we don't have it. I don't have any help that I can give you.
If your school has money, they can hire a sub for a teacher, and then you can pull a teacher to help you. I've done that
Well,
before.
the thing is, it's only like 5 per computer,
Yeah.
and it's just very time
Yeah.
consuming.
But overall, let me just say you guys are doing pretty awesome, because we are 30% done with the access. So that's pretty good. Are there anybody who hasn't started and is a bigger school? I would urge you to start soon, okay? Yesterday I almost had a heart attack. I looked at who hadn't started. There was a couple of my friends with over 300 kids in there, and I was like, ooh. So if you're here, talk to me afterwards, okay, if you need any help. Yes? Yes.
I had a question. Your testers are coming Thursday to test our kindergartners, and you have 36 of them. What if they don't finish? Will they be coming back?
Yes, so the question was, if you opted not to test your own kids, and those testers are coming out, sure, it's gonna happen that some of your kids are gonna be absent, right? They will come back. Those are 2 very good testers, I have to say. That's why we hired them back. So they're gonna come back to your school and pick up those kids. Yes?
I have another question. I have 2 kids that still have not been screened by LCE. I don't know if they were absent, if they went.
Then you gotta contact Carlos in LCE. If you
calling
know,
him?
yeah, keep calling Carlos. Yes?
The management portion of the platform was sluggish yesterday and I couldn't print. I think I emailed you. Do you know anything about that? Was that?
Her question was she couldn't print tickets yesterday. That was the first time I heard that question, and I emailed you back. I logged on and I saw your ticket, so it may be an internet issue at your school.
So I'll try again this morning.
She had trouble printing her tickets.
It was just spinning.
So, but I opened her tickets, and I was sitting at Burna Faso actually on wireless, and they opened just fine. Yes. That's a lot of access questions, guys. We're gonna run out of time.
I've got a suggestion for people having trouble printing tickets. Last week when I tried to print out my tickets, I was trying to go through Chrome and I kept clicking print, and the PDF wouldn't open. I wound up closing Chrome and opening and trying to print through Firefox, and they generated fine. So that's a possible workaround for people that run into that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. In your instructions that Claudine put in, there's the how to fill out the test security checklist. Please make sure you do that for your writing books, okay? And please also return all test tickets if you're able to print them to us so we can, dispose of them. Anything else pressing with the access? Because I feel like I'm taking too much time on that one slide. Good. If you have any other access questions, I'll be here afterwards. Okay. Who has students who took the NMAPA last year? How many we got? All right. So everybody else can take a little snooze. The NMAPA is gone, and there's a new assessment. It's called Dynamic Learning Maps, DLM. Okay? Have you heard anything about it? We've sent you emails. You should have heard something about it. So it is administered for grades 3 through 8. So you guys are here, middle and high school, middle and elementaries. For the severely cognitively impaired students, there's only 600 students in the district that take that test. So it's not like Access where you have 15,000 or the science test where you have 18,000. We're talking about 600 students. This is new to us too. So it's new to you guys. It's gonna be new to your teachers, but it's new to us. We haven't seen much about it, okay? So the main difference is that the NMAPA was on paper. This is not on paper. It's an online assessment. There may be some students, and I don't know the percentage, but let's say around 30% of the students who take this test, they could maybe operate a mouse. But there's going to be a large percentage that cannot, okay? So for the percentage that cannot, the teacher can then click and operate the mouse and the keyboard, okay? So that's the main difference. It's not paper pencil. The teachers, and we send out emails to the teachers. Do you remember that we asked you before the winter break to supply us with names of teachers and the employee numbers? So we created that list of teachers that will administer that test. So we have that. We sent out another email last Friday to those teachers to start logging on because they have to do a training. It's a 3-hour training, which is, people are already asking, who's going to pay for my time? But the NMAPA was 3 hours too, so they did it last year too. It's just a different training. What I can tell you about the training, it has to happen annually. Okay, so they have to do it next year again. It's 4 modules, and it's delivered in Moodle. And here's the site. Claudine and I are the main contacts on this one. We have run into a little issue that some people couldn't log on. So we will look at that today because we were in trainings all day yesterday. So we will hopefully by Friday, what's today, Wednesday? By Friday it should be all sorted out. I believe what happened, when we sent that before Christmas, they had 20 days to create an account and some of them didn't do that. So I think we have to resend it, but I'm not 100% sure. But by Friday we'll have it cleared up, okay? This is kind of a timeline we're looking at. The window opens on March 9th. So they have a little bit of time to do their training. And then closes on April 10th. That's 5 weeks, which is longer than the NMAPA window was. NMAPA was usually 3 weeks. But there's a spring break in there, so it's actually 4 weeks, okay? Starting February 17th, the teachers, if they completed their training, they can go into the system and create a student profile. And if they do whatever, and I've not seen that part, okay? But when they create the student profile, they're gonna answer some questions that will then set the starting point for that student in terms of the level of difficultness, you know? So that 17th is kind of a date to keep in mind. And then the scores come back, you know, mid-May, I would think. May, June, the scores come back. A couple resource sites, and obviously you have the PowerPoint. Maybe if you have, you know, kiddos who take that test, it's a good time to start looking at the DRC side, try to get into the KITE portal, you know, just to familiarize yourself a little bit with it. Okay? Any questions, Access or DLM? Yes.
For the DLM, can they do that on iPads?
iPads.
Because our students are very familiar with operating iPads, but not.
You know, I think so. I'd have to check the technology requirements to
We'll ask on that one. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But good question. I gotta ask. Thank you. And we're here. I mean, if you have access questions for later, I'm outside.
Okay, so we're getting away from specific tests now, and going more to general things. So if you don't want to have to like bookmark all the different places or remember all the URLs or go to all of them, APS does have class link. So everybody should have an account that's an APS employee. If you go to my.aps.edu, you can log in there and like go to Canvas, go to your emails, go to Office 365, and then everybody, even teachers and administrators, should have a button or an icon for STC resources. Okay? When you go to STC resources, you should see these 5. This is our 3rd training this week, and some of the teachers and STCs are not seeing the KITE one. If you can't see that, we know that's a known issue and we're working on it. So, but you can go there and then just click on it and it'll take you to the site. So if you ever forget which URL it is, instead of searching on Google, this will give you exactly where it is. And you can also always go to our Google site, and on our Google site, you just pick elementary or middle school and then go to assessments, and there's a page for each assessment that will also have links. Any questions about the portal?
Is the DLM training and also in process?
It should be work. It's not. Okay, so.
Yeah, the SBA side.
The assemble one is still.
Okay, so the assemble stuff. Okay, so I guess they're still working on it. Yeah. Claudine said it was that she was emailing technology yesterday, but thanks for letting us know. Okay, the next thing is just in general, if you would like infrastructure testing at your school, it's not mandatory, but if you would like it, you can request it. So if you're thinking, well, why would I want to do it? If you're a new STC and you've never done it before, you might want to do it. If you got new devices or new labs, you might want to do it, or you just might want to make sure everything's going to work out okay. So you can request an infrastructure testing and a dry run by submitting a technology ticket. When you submit a technology ticket, you can get there online by going to the my.aps.edu and then going to employee resources and then Cherwell ticketing. Or you can go to the public website and go to submit a ticket that way, or you can just call the help desk phone number that was on the slide at the beginning when technology was up here. So if you would like to request infrastructure testing, that's what you would need to do. Okay? So that means they'll come out and they'll do like a practice run to make sure your devices are going to work properly on your testing day to hopefully prevent some issues. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
When do you want this request in?
He said that he would like it more than a month before you test at the beginning. So the technology folks, as soon as possible. Okay, and then and that's why they wanted to know your testing schedule, so that like if you're testing on February 1st and someone else was testing this week, they would go to that school this week first. So they're going to prioritize by the testing date if they need to. Any other questions? Okay, so we're back to Melissa with accommodations.
Hi guys. So just a few words about accommodations. We did provide for you the New Mexico Assessment Accommodations and Accessibility Manual if you guys want some extra reading. But this really is just to provide you with all the information you might possibly need. Keeping that communication open with your head special education teacher is really important, along with your teachers, so that you are building a list of the accommodations that students are going to need for testing. So just as a reminder of some of the supports in regards to assessment and the structure of that, the bottom there for universal tools, so those are things for all students. They're usually built into the platform itself. So those are things like obviously just giving students blank paper, the highlighter, the built-in calculator. So all of those built-in tools on the platforms. And the idea with all of these student supports is to provide equitable access to assessment content. And then this second tier, accessibility features, that's also for all students. The only difference is that they have to be specifically assigned to students. And the idea behind that is to be a little more mindful of what you're giving the students, what tools you're giving them. Because just because it's available for all students doesn't mean you should give it to them, right? So examples of that is color contrast, directions read aloud, and then in Cognia, text-to-speech for math and science is actually an accessibility. So they don't require a 504 or an IEP for text-to-speech for science and math. But that doesn't mean go and assign it to everybody, right? We want to make sure that students are actually going to benefit from that tool. On the very last page of the manual that we gave you is universal and accessibility accommodations specific to the Cognia platform, to iTester. So you can kind of get a sense there. So that's going to be a useful resource for you. And then the bottom tier is accommodations, and those do require a legal plan. So the IEP 504 for an EL student. And this back page does differentiate the two features, two accommodations available for ELs or IEP 504. Yes?
I have a question. So if your kiddo, they have to have an IEP, how about if they're in the process of being tested? You know, and they still not have an IEP, and just because it takes so long for the kids to be tested, why should we?
So her question is, what if we have a student who's still being tested, still being evaluated? They cannot receive accommodations until that IEP is formally in place. If it so happens that the IEP, they just got it and the testing window's about to start, like we can work with that and try to go back and assign some of those legal accommodations. Otherwise, we're gonna have to work with what we have in accessibility. Okay? So just as you're planning logistical scheduling, things like that, think about accommodations and what you're gonna have to do on your end in terms of scheduling. So is it something where you have to plan for small groups, testing, separate rooms? Is it a presentation consideration, a response accommodation? And then even as a reminder for extended time, that's an accommodation that we often see. However, it's not specifically marked in the iTester platform. But just as a reminder, even with extended time, they still have to finish that unit and session during that day. So just keep that in mind.
But that's not something we have to go in and mark anymore with the
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Like in Pearson Access Next, you have to mark it.
Right.
That's not necessary now.
Everybody gets it.
Exactly. It's untimed. Okay, and then again, that bottom tier, the accommodations have to be documented. And then even, 100% for accommodations, but also accessibility, we don't want it to be a surprise on testing day. So these are things that students should be used to receiving during the classroom instruction, during the course of the school day. And then have a backup to any technology-based accommodation that doesn't work. And then something different this year too is if a student requires word prediction, that's built into Cognia. It's not, doesn't require an external device. And then again, as a reminder, that text-to-speech for science and math is accessibility in Cognia. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry, real quick, at the bottom of the triangle, the accommodations, with the IEPs, can you explain the text-to-speech on ELA?
Oh yeah, so she asked about text-to-speech for ELA. So you'll notice these are accessibility. Text-to-speech for ELA is an accommodation that we don't often actually see, and it is one that the PED often monitors, because we don't find that there are a lot of students who truly have that need, because ELA is measuring reading. So if it's, it kind of affects the test greatly.
So we don't have it, or?
So it shouldn't be assigned freely. I mean, that's to be decided by the IEP team, obviously.
Oh, okay.
If that's a need that the student has and they're consistently receiving it based on their needs, then that's something they should receive for the test. But it has to be assigned in the platform. And same thing with like calculator and a non-calculator unit. That's another accommodation that the PED typically monitors closely. We don't want to over-assign. We just want to provide students with the necessary supports to succeed. There are instances where there are some unique accommodations, so that would require a non-standard accommodations form. One example is if a student required cell phone for their blood glucose monitoring. Anything that's kind of unique like that, when in doubt, you can just contact us. We can, involve the special education department if we need to, but there's a specific form where we'd have to get permission for that. Yes?
So even if we have a 504 written with it's approved to have the cell phone around testing accommodations, that doesn't count?
Yes, only because it's probably not written in here. So something like a cell phone is definitely one that we would want the PED to know about. Because
you said it's a separate form?
It's a separate form that we can get to you if you contact us.
Yeah, we have a few.
Okay. And then same thing goes with sometimes there's an emergency that requires an accommodation, such as a student breaks their arm. If you can do an emergency 504 to get that written in, great. If not, there's a form to deal with those types of situations. Okay. Is there any other questions about accommodations? We are gonna have work sessions, I think Claudine mentioned that, we'll give you the dates. Okay. And we're gonna have time to work with you guys on assigning these accommodation and accessibilities in the platform. One last question?
So I was just looking ahead at the medical exemptions.
Yes.
Is there a separate form that we need to request from you also?
Yes, that's
Just
different.
going to that link and going there.
Yeah.
I have a couple kids with TBIs at my school.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, her question was about medical exemptions. We'll cover that in just a few minutes. But yes, it'll be different in these forms. Okay, just a bit about parental refusals.
Albuquerque Public Schools offers a formalized process for parental refusal of standardized testing. The only test that a parental refusal does not encompass is access testing. There is no such thing as a parental refusal for access testing. Now, you may find that you do have a parent that is very upset that his or her child is testing access, and they may be demanding that the child is exempt from it. In that case, there's really not too much that can be done about it. We do want you to encourage the parent to have the child test and encourage that the child does absolutely the best he or she can on that test so that they can test out of that designation. But if that is not working for you, please give us a call and we'll give you direction as to who the parent needs to contact. It is through LCE, Language and Cultural Equity, and they do have a process for doing something with the designation. We don't do that, LCE does. All other standardized testing does have a parental refusal application to it, and please remember that parental refusals do count against your school's 95% participation rate. There have been questions in previous trainings about what your obligation is to tell parents about the parental refusal process, and you know what? We do not advise that you advertise that, okay? If it's going to come up, it's going to come up, and just address it per case by case. It is the school's responsibility to manage the refusals. There is a link provided to you where the refusal forms are located. If you cannot talk a parent into just going ahead and testing, you can't. Have them fill out that form. You keep a copy at your school, send one to me at 400 City Center East, and I will tag the student appropriately in Synergy. However, it is your responsibility as the STC to make sure that that student does not get put in a testing environment. Yes?
Okay, so we've had parents turn in the form the day of testing.
And that happens.
So do we politely say, I'm sorry, the deadline was Friday, well, it wasn't published?
I wouldn't do that because you're going to escalate somebody that is already probably in a very escalated state of mind because they're refusing the test. We do ask that you get it to us before the testing begins, but you know what? I'm not going to say no. You can accept it and do what you need to do, and then just get it to me and I'll mark it accordingly.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Now, we're going to move on to our next slide, which is the medical exemption. Oh, yes.
We've had students where they've actually taken a couple sections and then the parents.
That's okay. That's okay. You just stop testing. It happens, and you know, and a lot of times that is how the refusals occur. People aren't really paying attention to what's going on until, even though you've advertised it, you know, hey, our testing window is starting, this is coming up, and people don't really click in until their child comes home and says, this has happened. And that's okay, we'll just, you know, take it from there, and then he or she won't take the rest of the test. But remember, when that happens, you guys have to provide something else for the child to do. And that is also an issue, but you can do it. You can figure it out, right? No, okay. Yes, ma'am.
One update, because it used to say that you have to meet with the principal before you can have this refusal approved. Is it updated to no longer say that?
You know what? I'm the one that updates the forms, and I updated them so long ago that I really have to look at it to tell you what it says. We do want people to speak with the principal, for the principal to be aware. We want an STC to be aware, and we do want you to encourage the parent to test, to allow the child to test, because eventually the child is going to have to test. Maybe not in elementary school or middle school, but when they get to high school, they're going to have to take a test. And so we do like to have that communication piece as a relationship building thing between home and school. But sometimes you just can't change somebody's mind. And if your principal cannot meet with the parent, somebody should. A teacher, the STC, someone. Any other questions regarding parental refusals? And now, our new expectations for medical exceptions. This is in the case of very, very serious illness or injury or a medical emergency. I mean, we're talking something terrible has occurred. Not that somebody has a hangnail. Okay? I mean, this is serious. And for the student, not something serious that's happened with a student's family member, but for the student that is testing. The illness or injury or emergency of a medical nature must be verified in writing by a licensed medical provider, and it can be documented also in an IEP or 504 plan if the student has one. And this is submitted through the test coordinator portal with the PED, but you're not going to send forms like a paper form directly to the PED. You can go to this link and give yourself access. Enter your email address and then personalize your own password and hit submit, and you will have access. Claudine, you need to add something, correct?
So yeah, you'll request access. I'll go in and grant you access to the portal. But there is the form. I'll make sure that we have it on our Google site so you can access there's so many pages. The form that you have to fill out in the portal is just the one, and because you'll keep all the doctor information held at your school. Can you make sure they hear that?
Did you guys hear?
Did you hear that? Okay.
Some people said no. Some people said yes.
So when you go to the portal, you'll put in your email address, you'll create your own password. There's a little button that says request access. Click that button. I'll be monitoring the portal because I have access from the PD, and I'll grant you access. So there's the one page that has to be submitted, and you'll just fill it out electronically. All the rest of the pages of the medical exemption should just be housed at your school site. And that's the doctor's signature, etc. If you have any, we'll have to, this is how we submit them. Before we had to email them, or we could fax them. They're no longer doing that. That's the difference.
All right. And now, Shelley with test security.
So, as you probably already know, the PED requires everybody to do test security training twice per year. So even our DTCs have to go to the state training twice per year. You guys have to come to this training twice per year, and then also do the online training as well. But so all STCs, principals, teachers, EAs, janitors, everybody in your school is supposed to take it, with the exception of a few people that is in their contract that they're exempt. And it's the ancillary staff, like SLPs, OTs, adaptive PE teachers, and if there's other people on your campus that are ancillary staff that are maybe there one day a week, and if they're not going to be part of testing, they do not have to take the training. Okay, everyone else should do the training. Okay, for the spring 2020, we are currently updating the classes right now. If they have access to them, they can still go in them. They're not ready, but we have had 35 teachers go into the classes and attempt to do the quiz. It's not ready yet, but and it won't let you do the quiz. So it won't be ready till February 10th, but that's on the next slide. But this is what the icons are going to look like on the dashboard of Canvas. Okay, so on Canvas, they're going to say which class they're enrolled in automatically. Sometimes the enrollment process enrolls people in the wrong course. So like you as STCs, if you're also in a teacher role or a different role, then you're going to automatically be enrolled in the TA course. Do you have to do that? No. Okay. Could you go in and do it? Sure, but you have to do the STC course. Okay, which you will be manually enrolled in either by us or by yourself. Okay. So hopefully by changing the icons that they see when they log in on the dashboard, we won't have we'll have less people taking the wrong course. Because in last semester we had a bunch of people that took the wrong course. So the courses are going to be available Monday, February 10th. So expect an email from us next Friday, well, a couple Fridays, February 7th. And we will send some directions. Okay, it's going to be a little bit different because we're learning from what happened last semester, or I am. So the name of the quiz for every quiz will have the word Spring 2020 in it. So it will no longer just say TA quiz. So if you get a screenshot and they said I completed it, it has to say Spring 2020, otherwise it was the wrong one. Okay, because we would have people, I get emails and people were submitting one that they took in 2018 and saying they took it this year. So that hopefully will relieve that problem. So if they are not enrolled in the correct course, I'm going to give you a URL that they can self-enroll in. So what we made was 3 separate email templates so that you could send one to principals and other STCs at your school if you have that, one to the teachers and licensed staff that take the TA one, and then one to all the other staff, the secretaries, clerks, janitors, everyone else, EAs, to take the staff one. That will only have the URL for their course in it. So we don't want you just forwarding the whole thing to them because we had a lot of EAs just click the link to go into the STC course, and it was a lot of sometimes headaches on their part and our part, but so we'd like them to be in the correct course. So you'll get an email template, okay? If there's people at your school that are not APS employees that will be assisting with testing, okay? So like long-term subs that maybe are not APS employees anymore and can't get into Canvas, or parents or community members that help out at your school. They can still assist with testing. If they have a valid PED license, they can be a test administrator. Okay? If they don't have a valid PED license, they can only be a proctor, like helping a test administrator in a room, or a bathroom monitor, or someone out in the hall, a hall monitor, or escorting to the bathroom. Those people you will have to train in person. What we recommend that you do is enroll yourself in the correct course, staff or TA if you're not enrolled in it. Go through it with the person one-on-one, and then have them sign the non-disclosure form. And the non-disclosure form is on our Google site under resources. And you can just print it out. Have them sign that. You keep the original. You send a copy to Claudine Sanchez. Be it interoffice mail, or you can drop it off when you go to drop off anything there. So that's for people not APS employees or can't do the Canvas course. If you have people at your school that do not speak English or cannot read or are hearing impaired or visually impaired, you can also do an in-person course with them. We do not have it translated or any other ways. There is still an option if you want to require your staff to get a certificate, that is still in there. It's not required. They will have to fill out a Google form and then they'll have a certificate emailed that says Spring 2020, but that is not required. Okay, you are expected to ensure that everyone on your campus does complete test security training for the spring. Okay, so you're going to monitor your school's completion using the test security tracker, which is something new that we started last semester. It's on the internal visualization page. And if you're on this, you can just click the link. If not, you can go to my.aps.edu, log in and click the zapper icon, or it says APS internal visualizations, and then go down to, what is it called? Test security tracker. And the directions will be in the email next week as well. But it's the same as last semester. So once you get on the tracker, you can see zones, completion rates, you can see your school's completion rate, you can go to see a detail report. On the detail report, you should see the names or employee numbers of everyone at your school that is supposed to take it. Now, again, it's an automatic process for rostering through Lawson, and there's going to be people in there, for most of you, that aren't really at your school or don't need to take the course. So just because, so if there's someone on there with an employee number, to get it switched to their name, they have to log into Canvas and update their profile and settings. And we do have a document and a video on how to do that. As well as on the tracker, there's links to that. So, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought a little bit. If there's people at your school that are on that list and you do not want them on that list because you want to see your school get 100% completion, which is what we want to, you just email me, Shelly Robinson, or you can email assessment and they will send it to me, the names of the person that are on the list that are not supposed to be on there. So like if there's an SLP on the list, or there's someone who's on maternity leave, or someone that quit like last week, obviously they're not going to take it. So we don't want them to be on your list. Okay? Yes?
What's the rollover time from the time they complete the test on the tracker? Because I found it wasn't accurate and I had papers showing they took it, but it wasn't on the tracker.
Okay, so the way the goal is a great question. We should have talked about the other trainings. The goal is to Christoph runs the report before he leaves for the day, and he gets off like at 4:30. You run the test security report. So he runs the report. Then we have all these things that happen overnight, and then when I come in the morning, I come in at 7:30 and I pull everything from the reports that put on the thing that generate overnight. I enter it in the tracker. So that's the process. So it should be updated by 8 o'clock every morning up through about 4 p.m. the prior school day. There were a couple times last semester that we did have delays. There were issues with the process that occurs overnight. We had Canvas issues, but do you want to add?
Well, sometimes happy hour starts at 3:30.
But if you're in doubt, if they're saying that they completed it and it's not showing, send me an email. I will check, because last semester we had people saying they completed it. I would check, and even though they had a certificate, they really didn't complete it. We found out that somebody who completed it, then someone else logged into their Google account on the same computer and they generated a certificate, but they never actually took the course. So there's people find ways around everything. So if you have in doubt, email me and I will go in the course and I can tell you, yes, they completed it on February 20th at 8 a.m. I can see everything. Yes.
What about, and you may have been the one who's emailing the ones that will not take it by the deadline.
Yeah.
Is there anything, because I mean, it's a huge fight, same people all the time, no consequence.
Right, there's no
I'm just running around
consequence.
campus trying to get them, and I got better news to do.
Yes, so your principal is ultimately responsible. The principal has to sign a form, which you guys should make sure they sign and turn it in saying that everyone has taken it. So if there's people like that, we suggest to take it to the principal. If the principal says these people will never, ever touch a test, they will never take a package, they will never escort someone to the bathroom, that they will never even, have to do testing, the principal can, or have you email us their names and we can take them off their list for the report. But that's a principal decision. And yes, that does happen. And you're right, there's no consequences.
So without that certification, they shouldn't be tested?
They should not, and that's a principal decision. The principal would have to say, this person definitely will not, so we're not gonna fight with them.
Can you tell more about that sheet the principal's supposed to sign?
Yeah, it's a principal verification sheet that they will sign and send to Claudine at the end of the year. And
It
you'll,
goes directly to them or comes to us?
how do they get it?
I haven't seen that.
My STC always presented it to me.
Yeah, when I was in STC, I always printed it. Oh, it comes in the testing stuff. So it'll come in the folder. Yeah, I always gave it to my principal, they signed it, and I gave it to Claudine.
But not a fall one and a spring one, we get it at the end.
Yeah, at the end of the year. Yeah, yes.
So social workers are told that not to do any of the testing security training, but I know for a fact that we have kids melt down and stuff, and social have to go into the testing environment and deal with those kids. Is there a workaround on that, or we're just kind of letting that happen?
You could train her in person, or we could, if she's an APS employee, she could do the course, but if she's, I don't know, if they're refusing to do it, or they don't do it.
If a student is melting down in the testing environment and somebody comes to escort the student out, I think that that's okay. The social worker, whoever it is, should not be triaging a student in the testing environment. So I think that if it's very brief, go in, get the student out so that they can de-escalate, then I think that that's probably okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Shelley, I'm sorry, a quick question. In the fall, I came up with huge roadblocks with pre-K teachers arguing over whether they should take the test, this training. And the belief is, all staff should take it.
Right, so pre-K teachers are required to do the ECOT, and that's a state mandated, process, even though it's not like a formal test, but the observation, so they are supposed to take it. Yes, they are supposed to. Yeah. Any other questions, you can talk to us after or email us.
Right. And I want to, before we go into the very last section of our training, I want to thank everybody for being here, for your attention, for sitting, for being very, very focused, and we're almost at the finish line. So buoy yourselves up, and it's going to be over soon, okay? And we want to thank you for doing that and being in control of yourselves, right? All right. So, and now it's time for my favorite topic. Testing irregularities. The technical definition of a testing irregularity is any incident in the handling or administration of an assessment that results in the ability to question the accuracy of the data or security of the test. So there are many, many things that can and do happen in a testing environment. And when that happens, the test administrator, who is the teacher giving the test, must immediately report to the STC any incident that may compromise the security of the test, and then the STC must report that event to the principal of the school and then to the assessment department. So I'm the lead on testing irregularities, and my co-leads are Christoph and Claudine. Oftentimes, Christoph, Claudine, and I ask you to please email all three of us, put all three of us on the email. And it's really not because we do share a collective email brain. It is because we want to be able to give you as quick of service as we can. And if one of us is busy, perhaps the other two are not, and you will get a more immediate answer that way. So when you are with your staff, please remind them that they have to report an incident to you immediately. Do not wait until the end of the day. Do not wait until the next day. We need to respond to these occurrences fairly quickly. Now, an irregularity in your testing environment results in one of two outcomes. Either the assessment results remain valid, or they're invalidated. I do not invalidate tests. That is up to the PED. What I do is I gather the information. I may have to call you, I may have to chat with you a little bit to get more information, and then I will make a recommendation to the PED to let the test remain valid, or in severe incidences such as cheating, I will recommend that the results are invalidated. But that final decision does come from the PED. Here's just some examples of what an irregularity is. The student is cheating, passing notes, passing the answer, using a cell phone, any unauthorized electronic device, including cell phones, smartwatches, earbuds, or other listening devices. A student not receiving accessibility features or accommodations required by their legal plans is considered an irregularity. In this instance, we do have to report it. I will not say to invalidate the scores. We will recommend that the scores are kept, but hey, you got to get those accommodations in. Also, a big thing sometimes that happens is that the educator, the teacher, the testing administrator actually uses some items from the test to teach content. Guess what? That's cheating. Also, there are times when people will have material up in the room, such as, in the instance of 3rd and 4th graders, there's a times table chart up in the room. That is cheating. Those things must be taken down and they must be covered up. So those items must be reported immediately. There's also other things that you might need to report, such as a student getting sick in the testing environment, having to be removed from the testing environment, taken to the nurse, triaged by the nurse, sent home by the nurse. Please let us know, because we do have to account for that test being open overnight. In those instances, we'll let you continue testing the student the next day. If you have a student that is in your testing environment and pretending to be sick, and you're keeping the student in there, and he's messing around and not doing what he needs to do, and so on and so forth, that is considered an irregularity, but he's not going to test the next day. He's finished for that day, and he doesn't have a score on the test. Do you see some of the differences? Okay. So, just remember, when in doubt, if something happens, and if you're in doubt, just give us a call or email us or ask us a question, and we are very, very happy to give you guidance in relation to an incident that may occur in your testing environment. Now, let's avoid these irregularities before they happen. And this is just your pre-planning. These are things that you need to think of ahead of time that does help to eliminate some very, very common irregularities. Make sure that you've got a good testing schedule in place. Schedule sufficient time to complete before lunch or the end of the day, and include some breaks. Before testing, please make sure that students are correctly matched to their state student ID on the label or ticket. Students in APS have 2 identifier numbers. One is the APS ID and the other is the state ID. All APS IDs start with the number 9, and state IDs start with a different number. Standardized tests are tracked through the state ID. So make sure you're looking at that state ID, not at the APS ID. Also, make sure that your accommodations and your accessibility features are assigned prior to testing, and they're assigned to the correct students. Work with your technology and materials to make sure that they're ready and working properly. If you are having some kind of machine issue, contact technology, put in a ticket through Sharewell or put in a ticket through a phone call and get your zone tech out there or somebody out there to look at the machine, to do whatever they need to do with the machine so that on testing day, nobody has a terrible surprise. And don't just assume that it's okay. Look at it before it happens to ensure that it's okay. Also, come up with a plan to ensure that students do not have unauthorized electronic devices with them in the testing environment. Sometimes this is easier said than done, particularly at middle schools, because we all know that those middle school and high school students have that cell phone with them all the time. But come up with some kind of plan to ensure that they're not on their person, have a place to store them, some kind of process. And ensure that your testing administrators are monitoring actively in the testing environment. They need to be scanning the room. They need to be walking around. They need to be redirecting if need be. If a test administrator is using the testing time as an opportunity to catch up on grading, or if they're looking at the computer or maybe reading the newspaper or something where they're not focused, that's where some cheating could happen with students. So they need to be actively monitoring. Testing is not a vacation for them. They need to be up and around and actively monitoring their students. So are there any questions regarding irregularities? All right. And we do have some upcoming support sessions that we'd like for you to know about. Again, the NMPED iStation training is February 5th, and if you would like to attend, or if you have been a previous attendee to that 3-part session, please make sure that you've registered for it at istation.com/New Mexico, the entire word New Mexico. Also, please be aware that there are cognitive trainings coming up, and you may sign up for those in ERO. We also have cognitive drop-ins, and there's no need to sign up for that in ERO. The dates are available. And please remember that we do offer site-based iStation and iReady trainings for your school, and if you're interested in that, you may contact us at assessment@aps.edu. And on behalf of the entire assessment team, I want to thank you for your time and attention. Please complete our survey to give us some feedback, and we do use your feedback for improving our presentations. And we'll be here for a little while if you have some additional questions. If you want to stay for a little bit, we do have the room until 11. Otherwise,
Claudine and
thank you.
Christoph need to talk to the STC from A. Montoya outside.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I'm not in trouble. Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Just bear with So are you going to say? Okay, I don't know.
And I've always been